I always receive questions from you guys asking what are the pros and cons of moving to Switzerland? Do you like your time in Switzerland? Should I move to Switzerland? So February marks my 6th year living in Switzerland, and I thought that I'm now in an adequate position to share my experience and give my take on the advantages and disadvantages that you should think about before your move to Switzerland. And hopefully this can help you make a more informed decision. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Olivia and I make videos sharing about life and travels in Switzerland. If you have not yet done so, now is the perfect time to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you will never miss any of my future videos. Just a little disclaimer here that everything I share here is subjective. They're all my own personal experience. It's going to be different from yours because we all come from different backgrounds, from a different country, and my experience will not be the same as yours depending on your family background, your financial situation. So everything that I share here, just take it with a pinch of salt and a spirit of open-mindedness. And without further ado, let's get going. The first pro of living in Switzerland is no doubt the excellent quality of life. Switzerland has been named the world's best country in the rankings compiled by the news magazine US News and World Report, and in a survey in which 17,000 people took part, Switzerland takes top spot for the quality of life as well as both economic and political stability. Life in Switzerland is really slower paced and focused on quality. Even though shops are closed on Sundays, for instance, it's a very big culture shock for me when I first moved here. It's a chance for people to unwind. People just make adjustments to the schedule, so they will probably do their grocery shopping on Saturday or Friday, and they use Sunday as a dedicated time to just rest, pick up their hobbies, spend time with their family. And for me, I find it very refreshing because of this whole focus on work-life balance. In Singapore, it won't raise eyes if you're still working on the weekends, and also it's also common that when you're on holiday, you will still bring along your laptop just to check on emails, and I think that's the extent of hustle culture back in Singapore. I've worked in 3 companies so far in Switzerland, from a startup to a local SME and a large international organization. Even though I really had to work very long hours during the Euro 2024 season, during the tournament period, that was only for a short time. Whereas for the remaining time during the off-peak season, there was no issues with me clocking off punctually at 5, and I was never expected to answer to emails or pick up phone calls when I'm on a holiday. So they really respect that in Switzerland. The next advantage of living in Switzerland is also the high salaries, and this makes it a great place to build intergeneration wealth. Switzerland offers some of the highest salaries in the world, with industries like banking, pharmaceuticals, and engineering thriving. Switzerland has a low unemployment rate of just 2% and is also home to 7 of the world's top 25 universities. Take for instance EPFL and ETH. This makes it an excellent location for families looking for suitable educational opportunities for their children. According to a new index by citizenship advisory firm Henley & Partners, Switzerland is the world's best country for families looking to relocate and assess the highest earnings and career prospects for themselves and their children. Take for instance, for an Indian family, relocating to Switzerland would increase their advantage from 32% to 85%. The third advantage of living in Switzerland is also the excellent nature and the abundance of outdoor activities. Really, Switzerland is an outdoor lover's dream. No matter where you go, there's always something to do related to nature. You can be hiking in Zermatt, paddleboarding on Lake Geneva, and doing snowshoeing in Davos. Like every season, there's just something to look forward to. And even in a small town where I live, like you're never too far from like amazing sceneries. Like just 5 minutes away, I can get access to the lake where I can walk my dog, I can do paddleboarding, and I really enjoy it during the summer months. That is something that is completely new to me, coming from a concrete jungle like Singapore, where unfortunately we don't have that much access to outdoors and nature. Like the only place I can do like a proper like hike is probably Bukit Timah Hill, or maybe going for a bicycle, ride my bicycle at Pulau Ubin. That's just about it. Like I feel that in Singapore, the opportunities for enjoying nature is not that much. And also because it's really hot and humid, so I didn't really enjoy going outdoors back in Singapore. But coming here, I discovered something new about myself, that actually I do enjoy nature. In a country where people are spending so much money to come and visit, whereas when you're living here, you have like free access to all that is to be enjoyed. And I think that's the best privilege of living in Switzerland, that the mountains and the lakes are just, like 15 minutes away from you. And this is something that people pay thousands of dollars for just to come and visit Switzerland once in their lifetime. The next advantage of living in Switzerland is the excellent transport system. Switzerland's public transport is seriously world class. Trains are most of the time super punctual right down to the second. And you can even reach the tiniest village that is super remote with ease. Like I remember the last time when I was hiking in this random part of Switzerland, which was quite remote, I was surprised that the bus actually arrived right on time. You'll be expecting that at this kind of super ulu place, probably the bus would be late or they don't even show up, because that was an experience I had in Italy. I was waiting half an hour for the bus only to realize that, okay, it's not going to come because the bus company was on strike or they're just not functioning. You will be surprised, even in the most remote villages, they have access to public transport and they're on time. And the best part is these are scenic trains and bus rides. Take for example, the Glacier Express, the Golden Pass Express, the Bernina Express. These are train rides that people take as an experience in itself, because you can enjoy such marvelous sceneries without having to drive, and there's food and refreshments on board, and it's reliable. You can get from place to place easily. The only downside is that yes, public transport is expensive, but I think that considering how punctual, reliable and efficient it is, you pay for the quality. So much so that after 6 years of living here, I still don't own a car, because there's really no need to. I can get from place to place so easily with the public transport. The next advantage would be Switzerland's central location in Europe. Switzerland is in the heart of Europe, and that makes it perfect for travel enthusiasts. From Zurich, you can easily hop on a train that brings you right into Paris, and it's also just a few short hours to go to places like Milan or Madrid, and just makes it really convenient to hop on a plane and go for a weekend trip, which I do pretty often during the summer. If you're someone coming from a different continent and you want to explore the best of Europe, Switzerland would be the perfect choice as your base. The final advantage of living in Switzerland would be the low crime rates. That is also quite a bit of a paradox, considering the fact that Switzerland is also one of the most heavily armed countries in the world. So the gun culture here is very different from that in the US, where yes, it's also another country where gun ownership is very high, but whereas in Switzerland, the gun culture is very unique to the country's DNA. People own guns because they have this familiarity, they have this background since their childhood. People have this unique sense of responsibility where they own guns and they use it within their own private settings. And the mentality is vastly different from that in US culture, where gun ownership is very much associated with self-defense. Of course, every city has their shady areas, and you don't go to places like red light districts or train stations late at night where sometimes some shady activity is going on there. But at least so far during my time here, I've never felt unsafe. And so much so that kids as young as 5 years old, they are able to walk to school by themselves and independently without any worries of their parents of child adoption. And to me, that says a lot about the safety in the country. There's a high trust system here. There's a high level of trust in this country. No matter whether you have been to these honesty shops that are popular in small parts of Switzerland. There's one in Gimmelwald. There's no one manning the kiosks, and people just pay. And this is really reflective of the high trust system that they have. They trust that you will do the right thing. And also for someone like me that is always constantly losing things, I don't know the number of times that I had my phone returned back to me, or that I lost my camera tripod, I left it on the train, and guess what? I found it back. So this will probably never happen if you're somewhere in another city. I already come from Singapore where it's quite safe, but Switzerland is, I would say that it's on par with Singapore when it comes to safety and trust levels within society. At this point, if you're still watching, you're probably finding my videos helpful, and it will mean so much to me if you hit the subscribe button. That will help out a small channel like mine so much. I also want to point out that I've launched a Swiss travel guide where I share an interactive map complete with over 300 recommendations on experiences, hotels and restaurants that you can book within Switzerland. The guide also comes with various itineraries for different seasons from summer to winter, so you can use these itineraries immediately to plan your time in Switzerland. I will keep the link in the description down below, and you can use the code Olivia10 for 10% off the full access guide. With that, let's get back into the video. Of course, with all the pros that we have talked about, no doubt there's no sugarcoating. There are some negative downsides to living in Switzerland, so let's go through all of them now. The first and probably the biggest con of living in Switzerland is You guessed it, the high cost of living. I have multiple videos on this topic. You can click the link here to watch my video on the cost of living in Switzerland. But there's no kidding here. Like, Switzerland is the most expensive place possibly to live in. In fact, the most popular Swiss cities for expats, such as Zurich and Geneva, they have been consistently ranked as one of the most expensive cities to live in the world. You'll be surprised by how much of your income would be spent on health insurance, and also groceries cost is very high, especially when it comes to meat produce. Also, especially for families coming here, you need to note the very high cost of childcare, which can potentially take up like 1/3 of your income. So that's really a disadvantage, because I've seen so many cases of women giving up their careers to take care of the children at home, because it just financially don't make sense for them to be working and then putting their kids in childcare, of which like a big chunk of the salary goes to childcare. And that, I think, is a real downside for women, because a lot of trailing spouses, when they come here, they end up like sacrificing their job, because the amount of subsidy when it comes to childcare is still quite limited. So you really have to brace yourself for it, that yes, you do earn high salaries, but it is also counterbalanced by the very high cost that you spend for your daily expenses. The next disadvantage of living in Switzerland would probably be the rigid culture, considered more conservative and traditional as compared to other more forward-looking European countries, and they're always like the last to implement like progressive measures. Like, women only got the chance to vote in 1992. Switzerland was the last country to do that. Companies are typically quite hierarchical, and only the highest people in authority can make the final decisions. The rigidness also applies when it comes to administration. I find that when you want to make a change to something, or you want to request for something, you will be boggled by so much administrative red tape, which just makes it impossible. And also because of the language as well. Like, the letters that you receive are always going to be in French or German. And as an expat, that can be really difficult, because you are already trying to grapple with the language. And yeah, I don't have a good experience with the administration here. I find it still quite backwards. It's not as advanced. Say in Singapore, like for filing for my taxes, it's really easily done online. Everything can be done through your SingPass, and access is very quick. Like the turnaround time when it comes to government administration is very fast in Singapore. Here in Switzerland, like if you want to, if you are filing for something, or if you are applying for, say, something related to your taxes, oh my gosh, like the whole process of filing taxes for the administrative here, like it can take 1 year, for you to complete your taxes. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So administration here is much more lagging behind, which comes to my next point, and that is, it's much harder to make friends in Switzerland. And I think that all expats living in Switzerland can attest to this. In a recent survey of expats living in Switzerland, a whopping 62% of expats found it difficult to make friends in Switzerland, and that's compared to 36% globally. Unfortunately, after 6 years of living in Switzerland, I have to say that I don't really have any close Swiss friends. Their immediate group of friends are usually friends that they have known since their childhood, and they are much more reserved when it comes to inviting someone of a different origin into their immediate social circle. You have to prove yourself before a Swiss would even invite you for a dinner at their place. So that is a major achievement in your social life. If you manage to get a Swiss to invite you for dinner, kudos to you. Especially for an expat, if you're coming from a background where things are much more open and you're much more outgoing, like you will find this change quite stark. Like you can expect to struggle a bit when it comes to your friendships here. It won't be easy. Another disadvantage is that sometimes people may find Switzerland a dull or boring place to live in. Yes, to a certain extent, because if you're comparing it with large, like vibrant cities like New York, Paris, London, then yes, Switzerland, in contrast, may come across as a little bit dull, because things like concerts, nightlife, they're just not as good here in Switzerland. Like shops close so early here, like 8 p.m. and things are practically dead on Sunday. So there's just not that much of a nightlife going on here in Switzerland. So in this aspect, yes, I do agree that yes, Switzerland can be considered a little bit dull. But from another point of view, like the kind of fun that the Swiss people have is just much more cultural. It's not like those kind of like party nightlife, but they do have a lot of like concerts. Like during the summer months, they have a lot of indie concerts. They have like their particular like traditional festivals and celebrations, like the Alpine descent. They have like cheese making competitions. They have like their harvest festival. So I think it is not boring personally for me, but I can understand from other people's point of view in terms of like nightlife, partying. Switzerland is just not that sort of country for you. Overall, if you're someone that thrives more in fast-paced environment, you might find Switzerland a little bit underwhelming for you in this aspect. At the end of the day, I think that every country has its good and bad points, and it's your own mentality that matters the most, how you make the best out of every situation that you're in. If you're constantly pining for things to remain the same as it was back home, then probably you're not in the right frame of mindset to move abroad. Instead, my best advice is to embrace this new chapter with an open heart and to adapt, because you never know what a new country and a new environment can bring out different aspects of yourself that you have yet to discover. You might want to also check out my video here about things I wish I knew before moving to Switzerland. I hope you found this video helpful for you, and good luck for your move to Switzerland. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!